Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're glad that you're here. Welcome. Whether you're just listening or you're watching our live broadcast, we're happy to have you here. We do have a little bit of news for you. We now have a store, and you can find it at indiebooksource.com and select the store tab. And you can find things like this really cool t-shirt that says Meet the Author podcast and other author and reading type
oriented material.
Yes.
Products. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I also wanted to say, remember always to like, share, follow, and comment. We love your comments and love to hear from you. Well, we've got a comment already. Oh my gosh. Paul,
hey,
hello.
Paul,
Paul, glad to see you.
MIA for a week
A
or
little
so.
while.
Good to see you.
Your ears should have been burning yesterday, Paul. Hey, Joe.
Joe Conjal. How are
Joe
you doing?
Conjal. We said your name right.
Got it right.
So sorry. For years, we've been calling him the wrong name. Oh, George just mutes.
And George, welcome.
Hi, George.
You're here. You think you are, and you are.
Now, those of you that don't know, George was right at ground zero of Nicholas. So hope you're really doing well.
Got the buckets out, bailing out and everything.
Yeah. Hi, Gina. We're
And
glad to have you here.
Gina, welcome.
I'm glad that you're in the audience and commenting. It's awesome to see you here.
Oh, we've got an awesome show tonight.
Yeah, we do. We should get
Our
started.
second author is, on the second half, is author Marc Youngquist. And he's written a really awesome book about military, 143rd in Iraq. And he's also written some crime novels. So hang in there. We'll have book giveaways in both half hours. Now,
we've enjoyed all we can stand.
I hope you're talking about the storm and not the show. Right, George? Okay.
I bet. Well, I did want to say one thing about Marc, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Besides having a fabulous military career and having written good mystery books and a great military book, Marc has a little bit of a lag. So be patient when he's on, because we might have a little lag between questions and answers. And and so just wait a second, give him a minute, and just pretend that we're on, a major television station and there's a lag.
We do want to clarify that the lag is a communication technical thing. It's not him.
No.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Good morning,
Down
Rob
Under
and
has
Joan.
piped up.
So
good morning, Robert.
Hi, Robert. We're always glad to see you here. And George says, yes, it was Nicholas that he enjoyed all he could.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he was at ground zero when it hit.
Without much ado, let's welcome
Maureen
Morrissey. Maureen, welcome aboard.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me to join you. I'm very excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you.
Great to have you.
We're so happy that you were able to come here. I want to right away bring up your book here. And now it won't show. This is crazy.
Okay.
It's flashing.
Technical difficulties
here.
Oh, this is great.
There it is.
Jeez.
Had to be woven into the
Coaxed.
situation here.
Oh, very quick. Very good.
6 stories, one epic journey. And is that you in the picture?
It is not. A lot of people have asked me that. I actually chose that photograph because it could have been mistaken for me or one of my daughters. So no, it's not. But I wish it was. Where she is, it looks so beautiful.
Yeah,
It does, doesn't it?
Kind of almost looks like the Appalachians,
Maybe.
Smoky Mountains, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere.
You want to tell us?
That's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, hold on a second. We have a number of comments here. Oh, Paul Ellis would like to say hello, Maureen. And Robert White said it was a supplement.
Okay, we'll just leave that comment.
There you go.
Oh, Julie Green says hello,
Hi, that's
Maureen.
my cousin. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Julie.
I
I
Welcome.
think there's a lot of family members watching and friends too. So
Well,
there's gonna be a lot of
welcome to everybody.
Hi,
Join us.
everybody.
Join us every Wednesday.
And for tonight, give us a like and a share
Yeah.
and comments. We love the comments.
Yeah.
And go ahead. You were just about to tell us about your book.
Right. So Woven is a series of stories. It is it weaves together the stories of several different families, and it is written as a series of novellas, and it goes back in history to the 1850s, and it moves through some very well-known historical events that all of us learned about in school, and some we actually maybe didn't know about. And it takes people who were able to survive some of these pretty drastic events and actually wind up in the United States at different points in American history. And then people come together through generations of Americans, and it kind of weaves together their history to more modern day America and into the 2000s. So it combines history and adventure and strength and adversity. And it really, the goal is to show that if you can survive some of the events, then you live to create the next generation, and that next generation moves on. And so it's really meant to show how we all are connected to our pasts and to our futures.
And to always hope and to move forward.
It does offer hope. I think it offers a lot of hope, sometimes in very dark times.
Yeah. Well, considering the subject material and the
Yeah.
fact that they do. Jerry says hello to you.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you.
Also,
One of my beta readers.
One of what did you
She's
say?
one of my beta readers, and a friend, Jerry, helped me do a
Oh.
lot. She's actually mentioned in the thank yous because she helped me with to make the book what it is. So.
We need our beta readers. That's
Oh my
for sure.
goodness. Mhm.
We like that when people say, "Are you sure you want to say?"
Yes, I do hear that, and I listen to those comments.
Oh, absolutely.
They're very
you want
helpful.
people to like the book.
Yes,
Yeah, you want people to read it and understand it, right?
that is important.
So what motivated you to write?
This book, or in general? I mean, that's too slight.
General.
How about in general?
Oh, so I have always loved books since I was very little. I loved story, reading, listening, watching them on TV. And I remember one of my earlier memories is having a publishing center in my bedroom where I would write down some of the stories I heard on that cheap manila paper that if you push too hard with the pencil, it went right through. So I clearly remember kind of taking a pencil, and I'm not great at drawing, but I did try to illustrate my own books. And at that time, I was writing a lot of ghost stories and scary stories, and the kind of stories that you heard around campfires. And then one of my earliest rejections actually came from my mother when I tried to sell her one of the books I had created for a nickel, and she turned me down.
Aw.
But well, she was.
But it didn't stop me, and now she is so proud of my book. She tells everyone about it, and is looking forward to the next one. She's read it 4 times, so she's more than made up for that little rejection. But it did motivate me to keep
I hope
trying.
she gave you more than 4 nickels this time, right?
She did.
Okay, good.
But and no, I just continued to write as an educator. I did a lot of professional writing, and it really wasn't until I retired in June of 2020 that I had the time and the ability to sit down and put this story down, which has been in my head for probably 10 years. And I was really thrilled to be able to finally get it out on paper, because it's been eating at me for a long time to get it down.
So that goes back then to the second part of the question that
Right.
you mentioned, or this book. So what did motivate you to write this particular book, these series of novellas?
So it's sad for me to say this as a teacher, but as a student, as a child, I didn't love things like history, geography, social studies topics. I never felt connected to those things in school. A lot of names and dates to remember and facts to spit back on tests, but I never felt connected until I became much older. And then I started to see, it was actually once I had children of my own. And then I started to see where I kind of fit in world history. I'm the child of Holocaust survivors and refugees. And my husband's family also has a story, and very, very different than mine. And I began to think it was really important to share these stories, not just with my children, but with my friends, my family members. And then as I started talking to other people, I realized it was an important story for everyone to read. The idea is that you become familiar with the effects that these events we learned about in school had on people, because history really is more than just facts. I mean, obviously we know a lot more now than we did even 20 or 30 years ago, or even than a year ago. But history to me has become story, the story of the people who were affected by all the events that happened in the world, some of which we know and some of which we don't. And so I wanted to write Woven because I wanted to share our family story. But I thought originally about doing it as a memoir. And then I realized I really did not have enough details to write it as a complete memoir. And so I did a lot of research. I read a lot of books. About the events in history that are in the book and kind of pulled together some characters that experienced these events. And some of the stories are family stories in there. People who know me recognize some of those stories and say, you know, wow, I remember hearing the story. Some people lived through those stories, but a lot of them are also creative license based on research. And I just felt that it was important to put it together. And I wasn't sure, because you mentioned the 6 novellas, why it had that format. I'd had a discussion with one of my kids actually about how I could write the book. And it did not feel like the kind of book that would be chronological in the sense of a traditional, maybe commercial type of fiction that had a beginning, middle, and end. And it felt to me like people's stories. So I decided to write them as 6 separate novellas that I really feel like you could read each one separately or out of order. But if you do read cover to cover, they weave together eventually chronologically. It's a little work on the part of the reader to figure out how these people fit together until the end or towards the end. But I just felt that since I wanted it to be showing history as people's stories, that it was important to use that format to write it as stories.
Oh, I think that's brilliant, because that is what history is. People's
Right.
stories, and you, when you're living history, it's your story. You don't have all the other stories. So that's the way you're
Right,
presenting your
right.
book. I think it's brilliant.
Right.
Thank you. And, you know, I also think, do we ever really know, even if you do hear family stories, because in our parents' generations, a lot of families did not talk about some of the traumatic events. If they served in a war, they didn't talk about it. And so how much do we really know, and what can really explain some of the behaviors that you experienced through your parents and grandparents? And I felt that I wanted to share some of those with my own children and grandchildren, and, you know, on through generations. So I thought it was important to share those.
Well, right now, would you like to talk about the book giveaway that you're doing tonight? And then we can
Oh,
talk
sure.
about one that you're doing on Facebook.
Yeah, so I'm new to publishing, to indie publishing specifically. I had done some publishing as a professional through lots of different companies that publish professional literature, and it's a lot easier because they basically come to you. But
Yeah.
when you are trying to publish a book, it's become quite difficult. So I decided to do the indie route. So I have learned way more than I ever thought I wanted to about the whole process of actually publishing and then marketing a book. So the whole book giveaway just came up, and you'll know this because you guided me through it about 2 days ago when you asked me
Surprise!
if I was going to do that. And I'm saying, I don't even know what that is and how that works. And so I did some research, you helped me. And so what I'm going to do is follow the format that a lot of your other authors have done, which is to give away 3 copies of the ebooks to the first 3 people who email me at the address that should be up on the
It is.
the little
the
thing,
tab
but
there.
it's mobility61@yahoo.com. But I'm also starting on Facebook a contest that will end on October 1st, and that will be randomly chosen, like a lottery, for 3 people who can answer a trivia question. And the answer is found on my Amazon author page. So
There you go.
should I say the trivia question, or should we let them look for it?
It's up to
Well,
you.
give
but-
them a heads up because
Yeah.
they're listening to your story. So
Yeah.
we'll give you guys a little heads up in case you don't win one of the
Okay.
copies
Get a
tonight.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Sheet
give
as
them
a
a-
reward for being here.
That's right.
The trivia question is to name one of the things that I enjoy doing in my spare time.
There you
And
go.
those words are in the description on the Amazon page, and I believe on your website as well.
Like in
There.
indiebooksource.com. Yep.
Yep,
Yes.
Maureen is now on indiebooksource.com, so you
Right.
can find her there and on her Amazon
Just joined
page.
us recently, so
But I do want to also tell you where else you can find Maureen. Her website is MaureenMorrisseyAuthorSite.wordpress.com. So that's MaureenMorrisseyAuthorSite and then wordpress.com. I'm sure
I'm sorry, that's a lot of letters.
But the reason that we read that out is for those people that will be listening to this is just an audio.
it's a very nice website, by the way.
Linda
So,
Moore says, well done, Maureen. And
My comadre.
did you see Janine?
Oh my goodness, everybody's here.
yeah, it's great getting support, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah, I know it's difficult to watch what everybody's saying when you're trying to talk. So Maureen's Facebook is Maureen-Morrissey's-author-page- and then a long number 100453655228193. But I'm pretty sure if you just check Maureen
If you
Morrissey's
search
author
Maureen
page,
Morrissey, you'll
You'll get there.
there's a couple, I think, but you'll find her.
And on Twitter, you can find her at Mobility61, MOBILITY 61. On Instagram, Reading Writing Life, READINGWRITINGLIFE.
And we got the email on the card there. Yeah.
And that email again is mobility61@yahoo.com. And that's where you need to send your text to win one of her ebooks, one of the 3 ebooks she's giving away tonight. Whew, that's a lot, don't you think so?
And I appreciate it. Get the word out.
If anybody has any questions for Maureen, now would be a good time to go ahead and pop them up on the screen.
I just wanted to show this pretty cover one more
Oh,
time.
it's beautiful. It's very nice.
And that's what you're looking for.
Can I read just a poem from the book that's not very long that might tie a lot of things together?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Would enjoy that.
Yep, I think everyone would like that.
So it's at the beginning of the book, and it just kind of weaves the whole story together and kind of teases you a little bit, maybe makes you think as well. Time, human time, passes slowly each day, week, month, and yet, where did the time go? How did the numbers, my numbers, get so big? Generations, not just a word. Descendants, not just a word. History, not just a word. All stories, people's stories that bring us to here, bring us to now, bring us to me, to you, to this. Threads woven into a masterpiece are still threads.
That's beautiful.
Ooh, nice.
Do you see the comment you got from your daughter?
Oh, those are my kids in Colorado.
Melissa says, wonderful
Thank you,
time,
darling.
Mom. And Trish Pipkins has a question. Oh, nope, sorry, that's Jerry Strauss. When will she be releasing another book?
Okay. Jerry, I love you, Jer, because she does know the answer to this question since she beta read it already. I am hard at work at another book, also a historical fiction, but more recent history, 60s, 70s, 80s, New York City mostly. There are stories woven into the book. It's not called woven. That do tell earlier histories in New York City. And the book will probably be out early spring. One of the things I learned through publishing is there is a better time to publish books. This book was published in November, December, because as ignorant as I was, I thought, oh, just in time for Christmas, not realizing that nobody would speak to me because they had been ordering Christmas books in August. So I realized that it was a better idea to independently publish in early spring, more thinking in time for summer reading and then maybe holiday season. So
yeah, and January and February are really bad time because everybody's just bought a whole bunch of books for Christmas. So that's usually a really slow time in publishing.
Your next book isn't going to be called Unraveled, is it?
No, but I might write that down because I like that.
There you go.
Trish Pipkins has a question. If you could time travel, when would you go?
That's a great question because people who know me well probably already know the answer to that question. You might think I'd go back in time, but I actually would like to go forward. I would like to come back in about 100 years just to see where we are. And then I would like to come back in like 200 or 300 years and then 1,000 years. I just want to know what happens to us and where the story leads. So I would go into the future. That would be the answer to that question.
There you go.
Oh, that's my son.
Loved every page of Woven. Cannot wait for round 2. That's from Ian and Stephanie.
Yes.
Very nice.
Daughter-in-law.
Oops, sorry. Joe Conjal, I love your almost dry humor. Hi, Rob.
Joe, why don't you move on down here to Florida?
Joe, don't.
Not so dry.
Joe.
Almost dry.
Almost dry.
Wait a minute. Oh, boy.
Oh, here's Robert. He always has such good ideas. Another possible title, Tapestry Tales.
There you go.
That
is nice.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great idea. I almost feel like it would be a great series to just invite people to contribute their own tales to. An anthology.
Because it's a tapestry, but Woven is like that too. It's a tapestry of
things
that's
that are
a really
together.
Great title.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Trish says he's the king of dad jokes. That's her dad. She gave him a T-shirt that actually says that.
Yeah.
The king of dad jokes.
Well, basically that. Yeah. But yes, Tapestry Tales. That sounds good. Melissa has something to say to you. Oh, who's your favorite character?
That's not fair. My favorite character. Oh my goodness. Well, I think she's going to know this one too, Oma, even though I'm Oma because of my family history to our grandchildren. I'm Oma. And one of the characters in the story who begins as a young woman eventually becomes Oma, which is Dutch for grandmother and German as well. So I'd have to say probably Oma overall is my favorite character because I feel like I'm her namesake, I guess. But as far as which characters I thought were just beastly and amazing, Lillian had some story. She came from very little. She experienced the Depression in the Midwest. She joined the army. she wound up, I don't want to give away too much, but she wound up doing some pretty beastly things during World War II. And I do love strong female characters, so I love Lillian.
So Pam has a question. Will the new book be autobiographical?
So I think all writers' books have some of their own stories in. So the new book definitely does. And Pam will talk. I'll tell you which ones in case you really want to know, because I did want to know.
Joe had to get his 2 cents in. Well, I guess the humor might be the only thing dry where you are.
That's true. It's
Quite
been pretty
true. 60% chance of rain the last 2 weeks and still going on every day. Yeah, welcome to sunny Florida. And who is Melissa's favorite character? She said you know who Cruz is.
I think maybe Hannah and Lena. The story of Hannah and Lena, which made her laugh so loud that her husband came running to see if she was okay. I'm gonna think it was probably Hannah and Lena's interactions that she's thinking of.
Hannah.
We got a winner.
Oh.
Well, that's awesome. That's really great. Well, I really like the idea of that book and the way that you wrote it. It's a different way to do it. And it took some thinking on your part. So
there was a lot of I used Word to write it. I used to be one of the people, and I still have notebooks and pads of things. I was more into the pencil and paper organic kind of writing. But once I started writing Woven on Word, I found that because I didn't know how I wanted to organize the book, it was much easier to write it as the series of novellas, and then very easy to just move entire chunks around. You can literally move entire pieces of so it was almost like one of those games where you're like, I don't know, where's it going to be? Is it going to be first? Is it going to be last? How do I start it? So that's kind of what happened through the book. And then like a lot of things, and I've heard it from a lot of fiction writers, you know, when it's just like, bingo, that's the one. Yep. And that's what happened with Woven.
Yep.
Well, plus if you accidentally delete one of those little blocks, you can always hit the arrow and it'll come back. So
yes, it doesn't go away forever.
That's how we write and rewrite and rewrite.
And sometimes don't rewrite.
Well, at some point you just pull the plug and say, that's it. I love it. This is good. I'm going for it. And put it out there in the world and hope that people get something out of it. One of the things that I learned about writing, the writing process, because as an educator, I've taught kindergarten through graduate school, and I've taught writing workshop to also colleagues and teachers throughout my career. You just have to sit down, put your thoughts down, try to organize them, and then you learn about the process that at one point you just have to think of it as an art where, you know, you and I are all looking at a painting. We're all going to have different emotions, responses. You might be bored by it. I might be in tears. You might be looking at it going, I don't get it. And I feel like writing is that same thing. And I put the book together and thought, you know, I like it. Hopefully people will get something out of it. But story is an art. Telling story, writing story is an art. And I think most of us are capable of doing it in some form or another. A friend of mine, a former colleague out in Arizona where we started working, I had a conversation with him because he has a crazy family history. And I said he needed to write the story down. And he gave me a little reprimand and he said, I'm a painter. I paint my history. And he sent me all of his work and I could see it. I still think he should write it.
But he's enjoying
I can see what he's saying is this is how I put out my history through these paintings. And they're very intense, amazing paintings. So I can see where he would say that's his art and his mind. But I still think everyone has stories to tell and they need to tell them. They need to be told.
Get them on paper. Yeah.
Somehow.
So it's about time to take our commercial break. I would like to encourage everyone to hang in there, stay, hear what Mark has to say. He's got a story to tell. And we'll be back, and Maureen will have some more input as well
At the end of
in the second half hour. It's going to be a good half hour, so sit tight. Don't go anywhere.
A batch of experimental missiles is hijacked by a group with military training. Duncan Pride, an agent of the Ministry of Intelligence, is tasked with the recovery of them before they can be used. Nathan Jericho, an ex-Special Forces soldier, now running the Independent Criminal Executive, has them and intends to use them. Pride has to work with a beautiful coalition intelligence agent, Jasmine Fields, trying to learn what Jericho's motives are and avert a disaster of catastrophic proportions. Lone Operator is full of political intrigue as shadowy figures behind the curtain of civilization pull strings in Machiavellian plans. Action and adventure rich in texture with complex characters and a hero like no other make Lone Operator a thrilling entry in a new series that will grab you by the throat and leave you wanting for more. Lone Operator, the Duncan Pride series by Jan Damagala. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and retailers worldwide.
Alana's.
WLFE Digital Broadcast Network presents Variety Unlimited Television. Watch shows like Meet the Author Podcast, The Bipolar DM, Just Cindy, Card Pulls and Coffee, Unfiltered Talk with Bryce, and more. That's right, our shows are your shows on WLFE Digital Broadcast Network. And now, back to the show.
Welcome, Mark. Can you hear us? Hello, Mark. Can you hear us?
Oh boy.
Oh.
Can you hear us,
I'm on
Mark?
the screen, but I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, there we go. Now we can
Oh.
hear you.
All right. Here, let's send him a text then. Go ahead.
Am on.
Okay. All right. All right. Well,
Here, send him a private text and tell him to just tell us about your book. We're having technical difficulties. Did you get that text? There it is.
well, sometimes this happens, I'm afraid.
Good evening.
Good evening. There you are. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
I'm here. Very little's coming through.
Okay.
All right.
You want to try to go out and come back in?
Robert said you did warn about the lag, but this is worse than the
This is
lag that we were having.
Worse than we had
He's-
before.
You're not hearing anything. Well, here's a comment from George. How about a book called My Five Wives? Each wife could be a novella, except for number 3. That's a 2-volume saga. Escape is the happy ending.
I'm so glad that I'm giving people ideas. I can't wait to read these books.
Oh, George has a book that's being made into a movie called Siren Song, and plus he has. Repeat that. Here.
Only getting broken transmissions.
Okay.
Book.
Can you talk about it? Can you tell us about your book?
Plus, I don't think we sent him a. Okay.
National Guard company.
Oh, this is bad lag.
This is not working.
Yeah.
And starts in '91 when the unit returned from Operation Desert Storm, and then concludes around 2010 or so, return in the aftermath. When I, in 2000, I would run into people who knew people in the unit. These were family, these were friends, these were coworkers, these were employers. And I would relate to those people a story about those individual soldiers, and nobody had heard any bravery of sacrifice.
That was fun.
And at school.
I have an idea. We'll
One
ask.
incident I talked about, a very bad night, October of 2000, October 26, 2003, where 4 soldiers from our unit were awarded a Medal of Valor for rescuing 3 wounded soldiers under fire. Now, the only name I mentioned when I did the presentation is the young lady we lost, Rachel Boswell. She was from Wisconsin, and she was with 9th. Our soldier.
We have him call us.
2 soldiers.
Yeah, but
Rachel.
Mark,
After I do the
why don't you?
presentation at the school, and a friend was over there, and maybe you know, and I'm thinking, okay, 165,000 soldiers on my here, and Andrea that went to the aid.
Oh boy! All right.
And never heard the story, and she didn't know about that. And this was her best friend, together, vacation, and she didn't know about that. And so I said, well, did you know the next? Andrea went back out with her, and Sue, IED, that tried to take down her police station and wounded 2 of her soldiers from her squad. And she goes, I didn't know that either. That kind of got me to a point in the book. I had to tell this story. I had to, educate people about. And another point that came is just how important the National Guard and the reserves have been. The Connecticut National Guard has over 20% of its guardsmen this year. We had a battalion, 500 people on the Horn of Africa, and we've just sent out a medical support unit to go in Poland. And most people don't know. I told this with the Veterans Administration, which 7-year process eventually, but it took 7 years. And I told the story. Some of it's not nice, it is, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, if you can hear us, can you call us on the phone? We gave you our telephone number. Call us on our.
Sometimes you're coming in broken, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, you
Call
call
us
us
on
on
the
the phone and we can ask you questions and we can relay it to the audience.
I might be able to put it up here on speaker.
Yeah. Give us a call.
Call.
You're too broken. I think you want me to get my
Call us.
Call.
You've got my
I
number.
don't have it. Call your phone.
Yes. Yeah. Stay on the picture.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we might have a resolve to this.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. We sent him a private message twice. Oh.
Well,
And Melissa
this
had
stuff
said,
happens.
yeah,
you
this
know.
stuff happens. Melissa said, I wish his connection was better because the bits and pieces sound fascinating. Thank you to Mark for your military service. And we all agree with that. And hopefully now he can call us and we can ask him questions.
Oh, it's telling me it's are busy.
It's saying what? All circuits busy.
It was telling me all we're busy.
That's insane.
Nobody's calling me, so
No.
not that popular.
Not
It's
working.
busy.
Wow.
I'm not sure what that is.
No, I'm not either.
Hi, it's Elena. Not great. Just saying hi.
Hi, Elena.
Well, I think the best thing to do is try and get Mark with a different at a different time.
Another
Yeah.
shot.
He's going to give us another shot. Murphy's Law rules. That's the truth, George.
Here he comes.
Here he is. Woo!
Hello.
Hello?
All right, I'm going to mute him on here.
Yeah, just do- Okay. Let's give this a try.
Okay.
Great.
Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear Mark?
Yes.
Does anybody hear me now?
Yes.
Are you there, Atlanta?
Houston, we got a problem.
All right.
Oh,
Oh my goodness. All right.
All right. Again, here's his book that he was trying to tell us about. And 143rd in Iraq, training the Iraqi police in spite of it all. It's a true story. We have a lot of comments. Yes, we can hear everyone saying they can hear you.
Yay.
Yay.
Technology, gotta love it. Well, you were breaking up a lot in what you just had to say. Can you kind of highlight it? Now we lost your picture.
That's okay. You
Yeah,
can still
we
hear
can
him.
still
So
hear
go
you.
ahead and tell us your story, Mark. We're all listening. We're all ears.
did any of the story come true?
No, in
Bits
such
and
bits and
pieces.
pieces, it was difficult to understand. So go ahead. Go ahead. Just start from the beginning.
The 143rd in Iraq is the story of a second National Guard company that went to Baghdad in 2003. The book itself starts in 1991 when the unit came back from Desert Storm. It ends approximately 2010 with the rise of ISIS. We were long gone by that. And when we got back, I would run into people who knew members of the unit, and I told them the story about that soldier or about their squad or their platoon. And not one person had ever heard any of the stories. And we're talking about bravery and sacrifice and, stepping up and, doing more than what was expected. And, it kind of, I won't say I was upset, but I was disappointed that nobody knew. And then I started doing school presentations. And I talked about this one night in particular, October 26th. 2003, we got hit at the Abu Ghraib police station, not the prison. police station, which is nowhere near the prison, and all those problems. And 2 soldiers from the 709th MP Battalion, not from Connecticut, were grievously wounded. Their legs were badly injured. And 1 young lady was killed, and that was Rachel Boswell. And when I do the presentation, Rachel's the only name I mentioned. And that night, 6 MPs from our unit from Connecticut went to the aid of the 3 wounded soldiers under fire and rescued them. And they were able to provide life-saving first aid to the 2, but unfortunately, Rachel was dead on impact. And, I do the presentation, and this teacher afterwards comes up and says, "Oh, my best friend was over there." And, we go out to dinner together, our kids play together, we go on vacation together, maybe you know her. And I'm thinking, okay, 165,000 in our deployment, of course I'm going to know this one person. And it turns out to be Andrea Cloutier. And she says the name. I said, "Well, remember I told you 6 MPs from Connecticut, were awarded a medal for bravery for rescuing those wounded soldiers under fire?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah." I go, "Well, Andrea was one of them." She goes, "I didn't know that." I said, "Did she tell you that the very next morning when she was nearing a police station at, let's see, that was the Cadre police station, and a suicide bomber with a vehicle loaded with explosives tried to take the police station down, and she was there and 2 of her soldiers were wounded?" She didn't know that either. So that motivated me to tell the story of the unit. Like I said, it starts in 91 when the unit came back from Desert Storm, and the build up to 9/11. The unit itself was on active duty from September 11 through Memorial Day of 2002. And then we were released from active duty. We were on airport security and other security missions. And then we were reactivated on February 7th of 2003. We went to Fort Drum, New York, where it was 38 degrees below zero in a driving snowstorm, to train up for desert warfare, and ended up in Iraq. First Kuwait in April of 2003, and then May 9th of 2003, we pushed forward and went to western Baghdad, the west side of the Tigris River, and we stayed there in a few different bases for the next year. And then April of 2004, we came home. We're up there in Fort Drum, like I said, 38 degrees below zero, driving snowstorm. It's on the east end of Lake Ontario, and it starts snowing there around November. When we left in April to go to the desert, it was alternating between snow and freezing rain, and we got off the plane in Kuwait. It was 105 degrees and a sandstorm.
Wow.
We were so not used to the heat. People were, getting heat exhaustion, not stroke, and dropping, just unloading the duffel bags out of the plane, not really doing anything super strenuous. Fortunately, we were there in Kuwait for 3 weeks while our gear caught up to us. We flew in, but our gear came by naval transport, and we picked it up 3 weeks after we got there, which gave us time to get used to the temperatures and to the heat and the desert environment before we pushed forward into Baghdad. Our main job, once we got to Baghdad, was restoring law and order. Now, we were trying to restore law and order in Baghdad with about, it varied between, say, 12 and 16,000 soldiers. A city of approximately 6 million people, where you have the city of New York of 8 million people with 36,000 police officers. And New York doesn't have everybody having an AK-47 or an RPK light machine gun or IEDs. And we did the best we could. We started off, in the police stations by ourselves. Most of the police stations and government buildings had been stripped by the Iraqis themselves, stealing anything they get their hands on. So we were there doing everything from putting doors and windows to issuing them cars and weapons and trying to train them up and trying to train them in the American way. And they liked the whole idea, but as soon as they were on their own, they went back to operating under Saddam Hussein style law enforcement, which was not like anything we do in the United States. And we accomplished our missions. We did what was asked of us. In every case, but it's different. It was, I won't say it was difficult, it was nearly impossible to achieve what we needed to do because there was so many years or centuries of the way things are done in the Middle East that, just weren't compatible with Eastern, Western style law enforcement.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like an impossible task.
It also sounds like a worthwhile book. And I know a lot of people want to say thank you for your service, Mark, and
Absolutely.
for all the people that served with you. There is a book giveaway. The first person to email doghouse111@yahoo.com will win a hardcover. Well, it says paperback, but it's actually a hardcover copy of the 143rd in Iraq, U.S. only. And the next 3 people to email will win an ebook copy of the 143rd in Iraq.
Yeah, we go to 143rd, yeah.
And also, I just did want to put up some of Mark's websites so that you can get in touch with him. Website is www.markyoungquist.com, MARCYOUNGQUIST.com. Twitter is @MarkJYoungquist. Facebook, you know what? Just look him up on Facebook.
Yeah, just Google. And remember, Mark is with a C.
Yeah, Mark is with a C, and it's Youngquist the way you would expect. And again, as I just said,
I found him on there that way, so you can too.
his email is doghouse111@yahoo.com. Now let's see. George Dismuke says, how does it make one feel about life after facing death almost every day for that long a time? And yes, thank you for your service.
How does it feel?
How does it make you feel about life after you face death?
About life.
Yeah.
There are people that I was in law enforcement with, and of course also the military, that are no longer with us. I'm 70 years old, by the way. And, I get up and I just look out over my lawn and I look at my Labradors and I think to myself, I'm not sure why I'm here, but I really am glad, and I'm going to make the most of it. I look at the people that, didn't survive, or that have passed for any number of reasons, and just, thankful that I'm still here, and I try to do, the best I can and make the most of it.
Yeah, not to mention all those that came back disabled, right?
Yes.
In so many different ways.
We had lighter casualties than we did in Vietnam, but we had, as far as fatal casualties, but we did have so many that came back with, leg and arm and head injuries, because the body armor and the helmets saved their lives, but of course couldn't protect their hands or arm or their face.
And brain injuries, there are a lot of brain injuries from the IEDs, right?
Yes. In the beginning, they tried to stand up to us, and that didn't work because, one-on-one, we just had much more firepower than they did. And they started resorting to the IEDs and the suicide bombers. And our unit suffered, I believe it was 13 wounded. But we had a much higher number that suffered severe concussion because while they didn't sustain a broken arm or a bleeding injury or something like that, they were well within the blast area and we did not understand concussion all that well. And if you had a concussion, there was no an MRI. There were no MRI machines in Iraq to evaluate whether you had a concussion or not. You had to get evacuated back to at least Germany to be evaluated for a concussion. And back then, it was one of those things. It just wasn't done. Like I said, we didn't understand concussions all that well.
Right.
So Joe Conjal says, so many over the years have given their life so we could live ours. Thank you to all who serve. And I agree.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So on the lighter side, you have a couple of other books, a few other books that you've written. Would you like to talk a little bit about Maidstone?
Oh, sure. After I wrote this book, somehow I got the writing bug, and one of the things writers do is they generally read a lot. And I was James Patterson books.
Oh, yes. Me too.
Robert B. Parker books and the Jesse Stone series.
Yeah.
And I just really liked him, and I saw, Tom Selleck on TV doing the Jesse Stone.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know a lot of similar situations to Jesse Stone, and probably not as dramatic, but I could take the thread of the stories and, jazz them up, and maybe I could write some books. So I started the Maidstone series, which is a crime novel. It's set in the western Massachusetts, in the Berkshire Hills, in a small town, and it's a young man returning from being a Marine and serving in Iraq and Afghanistan, and just by accident he becomes a police officer. He was trying to work his way into college, and this job came along. He paid better than the minimum wage jobs he was getting, so he took it. And somehow he just ends up in all these different situations in a very affluent town in western Mass in the Berkshires. And he is also fortunate that he meets very strong female figures. One's a Massachusetts state trooper, and then he meets an Air Force captain who is a C-130 pilot out of Westwater Air Force Base. And then he teams up with a young lady from Old Lyme, Connecticut, who is a dog handler. And they run into some very interesting crimes. Most of them come from my experience or people that I know that are in law enforcement. And I take that thread and run it into a story. And so the Maidstone series, the main character stays there and in the same setting. And it's things that actually do happen and have happened in small towns.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Joe Conjal says he's a big Robert B. Parker fan, Jesse Stone and Spencer. Actually, he said bug Robert B. Parker, but he meant big. He corrected that. I love James Patterson. He's probably one of my favorite writers, and Rob and I took his writing course, and we like him.
Yeah, he wants it back. Oh boy.
But with the Spencer for Hire and the Jesse Stone series, they're Eastern Massachusetts, Boston, and Paradise. I forget the name of the town. I think it might be Salisbury or something like that on the shore there.
Yeah.
And things do happen in a small town that nobody expects, and this character, if he had been a New York City cop, the most he would be doing is keeping the crowd back and stringing the yellow crime scene tape. Whereas in a small town, a patrolman does get involved in serious things.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's for sure.
That's the truth. My uncle was a cop in a small town. I'm Irish Catholic, and we have a lot of law enforcement people in my family tree. Odd, isn't that?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to open this up now. If you guys, Maureen or Mark, either one of you have questions for each other or comments to each other, go ahead. And anybody from the audience have a question for either one of these two great authors, we'd appreciate that.
Well, I'll jump in. Oh, go ahead. You want to read Robert's comment?
Robert said Trish, next short for him should read The Dad of Dad Jokes.
I want to thank Mark for your service and say that you're a perfect example of what I was talking about when I said there are stories people don't know. And as terrifying as your story is,
Yeah.
it needs to be told. There are a lot of stories of very scary events that people live through, and those are the stories that inform future generations. We learn from those stories. So I really appreciate the book you wrote about your time in Iraq, and of course, thank you and all of your colleagues for your service. But I also love what you were saying about writing stories about police officers in the Berkshires, which is a place we've spent a lot of time with our kids camping up there in South End, Vermont, and hanging out at Tanglewood and Great Barrington. So we know the area well. So I will definitely want to read some of those. But the idea that you took stories that really did happen and weave them, I guess that's my theme, into your books is just a great example of great writing. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Oh, thank you very much. You'll recognize, if you've been in the Berkshires, you'll recognize all the places I'm talking about. Some I use the actual name, whether it be Butternut Basin ski area or hiking at the ledges or, getting down to the old mill in Eggermont.
Yeah.
I needed a small New England town to write about, so I found it's actually Stockbridge and the general area of Stockbridge. And if you're going to go someplace and do some research, you can really enjoy yourself in the Berkshires up there.
This is true.
There we go.
I was born and raised in Massachusetts, know the Berkshires well.
Oh, good.
Yep, it's really nice. And actually, that's where all of the family Leos were in Massachusetts. So all Massachusetts Irish Catholic cops, what can I tell you?
Oh, yes.
Who served also, by the way, and came home and became cops.
Of course he did.
Yeah. My brother was in NUM, and then he was FBI, and he went to the Treasury Department and was ATF.
Oh.
Till he's your age. It's my baby brother, believe it or not. It is. But he's also retired now. But he's not writing books.
Maybe he should.
Well, his son does, and is a bestseller, actually. So his son is also retired Navy pilot, and
Navy.
Yeah, he was a graduate of the Navy Academy, and then went to serve in Somalia and also in Afghanistan, and shock and awe, man.
Yes.
Yeah. 20th anniversary too.
Yeah.
From 9/11.
That's right.
So it's a good time to have you on the show, Mark.
That's right. We do appreciate it. We really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
Well,
we
other
lost your other
At least we
connection
have your
completely,
phone
but we've got you on the
connection
phone.
still on
Stay on the phone, okay?
I'm here.
Except for the pesky technical issues, Joe says. Terrific conversation and a great show. Thank you, Maureen and Mark.
That's from Joe Conjure. Yeah, it has been a really awesome show. I thank you both.
Yes, it has been. And it has been, sometimes you have to overcome some circumstances. It kind of underscores the Woven book, right? And the Iraq book. Got to overcome all these obstacles in order to come out. Of course, we came out a little bit better than some people do.
Why don't you
I'm going
both?
to have to upgrade my technology, apparently.
That's okay, no problem. Trish says, great show for sure. Thank you both.
I'd like you to
Thank
stay on the phone, Mark, and
Right.
also Maureen. Don't leave us even when we end the broadcast. We want to talk to you a little bit.
Paul Hollis says, great guests and another awesome show. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. It was a great
Thank you.
show.
So I'm going to move, Maureen, I'm going to move you over
To the side.
that way. There you go. Yeah. I hope that didn't hurt. Sometimes
Actually,
it hurts people's necks when I do that. But, so,
Don't leave us, you guys.
Right,
There's
you
going to
guys
be
hang in
some commercials and all kinds of stuff, but hang in there.
yeah.
Maureen and Mark, I want
Um,
to chat with you a little bit.
Do you have anything you want to add in here? Or?
No, just
Okay.
again, like, share,
All right.
follow, comment.
Next.
And
Go ahead.
I should say, following us is Inside the Drag Closet. I don't know why I have to read that every time because
Either. It's the same
it's
thing
the
every
same
week.
show always follows
That's
us.
Be sure to drop by our store. It's new, and you know,
Yeah.
if you have any comments about it, anything you'd like to see, if you see we're doing something wrong, let us know. If you don't like what we're doing, okay. And then
Chanel. Hi, Chanel.
Hi, Chanel.
She's been listening on the ride home.
Oh, cool.
That's so great, Chanel. We always love it when you're in the audience.
Right. We have a really good show next week as well.
Mhm.
We have two really good authors. Abigail Keem. She's a mystery romance fantasy writer. And I think I counted up that she has, 17 books. I think it's in the teens, though, mid-teens. And also author Laureen Descourt, and she writes mainly poetry. And she's a fairly new author, so that should be interesting. Then on the week after that, we're going to be leaving and going on a trip for a couple of weeks. We have pre-recorded a couple of episodes. They're new episodes, so show up and watch them same time as usual. The first one is an author from Finland, PJ Mann, and that was a really, really good show.
Yeah, because she's Italian and she lives in Finland. And she's traveled all over the world, and that is reflected in her books. And if we hadn't pre-recorded her, we could never have had her on the show because of her work schedule and the
Yeah,
fact
like
of the
7
time
hours
change.
difference, and it's always the middle of the night when we're on live.
So Jan Domagala was watching us tonight,
He was and may still be. I
bless
don't know
him.
whether he's gone to bed
all
by
the
now.
way from England.
So that'll be on the 29th. That's the live show on the 29th. And then on the 6th of October, we'll also be gone. And we pre-recorded a new episode with Caleb and Linda Pirtle.
And those of you that know Caleb and Linda know that that is going to be a good show.
And the rest of October looks pretty good. So
Yeah.
you all want to join us then. We'll look forward to it. And I guess, let's see.
Can I just say thank you to everybody for tuning in? I really appreciate all the support, people who I know and love and people who I don't yet know and love. So thank you again. And thank you to you both as well.
We appreciate their
You're very
support
welcome.
also. That was great. Trish says she loves Caleb and Linda. Jan says
Jan,
he's
you're still there.
We love Jan.
Good morning.
We
How are
have
you
to
doing?
have him on our show again. George says he enjoyed meeting both of you. And Trish says you're welcome, Maureen. Yeah. Oh, did I say she also loves Caleb and Linda? Yeah, I do too. We love Caleb and Linda. Caleb's written over 80 books.
80 books. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, it is.
And they're not short.
No.
So I think what we better do is end this. And
Thank you, everybody.
thank you, everybody.
Remember, don't hang up, you guys. Stay with us. Our two authors.
Okay. So
The
until
rest, oh, wait a minute. One more comment.
Jan would love to come
Yeah,
back.
we'd like to have you and your partner. We'll have to figure that out, Jan.
Okay. Until next time.
That's all, folks.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.